When I first taught you about playing in a trump contract, I spoke about drawing the trumps, and that being a really important and integral part of playing in a trump contract. Don't worry, that's not changing. Drawing the trumps is still an important part of being in a trump contract. However, in a sense, and you're going to notice a pattern here, in a sense I told you a little bit of a fib when I first taught you about playing in a trump contract. Notice that I tend to tell you something, and then a few weeks later I go, not quite what I said, and then in a year's time I'll be doing that again and again. When I taught you about playing in a trump contract, I said drawing the trumps is always a good idea. The reason drawing a trumps is often a good idea is, which is not true, it's not the same as always, is it? The reason drawing trumps is often a good idea is because letting the opponents make little trumps is bad play, basically. If you play your ace and the opponent plays a trump on your ace, that is really bad. You've turned one positive thing, an ace, into a negative thing. They've made a small trump. So when I spoke about drawing trumps, I said it's about eliminating the threat of the opponent's trumps. And the reason that's often safe is because you have a surplus. You should have at least 8 of your trump suit. It doesn't always work out like that, because sometimes you play in a misfit because you have no fit. But more often than not, you will have 8 or more cards in your trump suit. That's why you've chosen it as trumps. And you will be able to pull the trumps off the opponents without too much cost to yourself. Now, there is a scenario where drawing trumps isn't necessarily a good idea. So what I kind of concealed from you when I first spoke about playing in trumps is that sometimes you can make tricks out of your trump suit and leave their trumps in their hands. This is a way of playing in a way that you play a trump over there, and then you play a suit and you trump it over here, and then you play a suit and you trump it over there. And essentially you're making tricks individually from each trump you hold. So if you did hold 8 trumps, and you had a void and a void, you could make 8 tricks from those 8 trumps. If you trump, 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 trump. So drawing the trumps in that instance will be a bad idea, because you have 8 tricks waiting there, but by drawing the trumps you're playing 2 trumps in every trick. So actually you're going from 8 to 4 if you play the trump suit out. So drawing the trumps is often a good idea, but not always a good idea. So you need some kind of guideline, some way of knowing when should you be drawing trumps. And it is the critical question to ask yourself when you find yourself in a trump contract. Do I want to draw the trumps? If so, when? Do I want to draw them right now? Do I need to do some trumping first and then draw them later? And this doesn't change. The theme of playing a trump contract revolves heavily around when you choose to draw the trumps. And your trick total will fall on whether you've drawn the trumps at the right moment or not. Maybe you shouldn't draw any trumps at all, maybe you should draw all of the trumps, or sometimes, unfortunately, there is a hybrid where you draw some and leave the rest. So what I'm going to try and do is talk you through the basis of when you can make extra tricks from your trump suit and therefore you don't want to draw the trumps, or when you should be drawing the trumps because it's a good idea because you can't make extra tricks from your trump suit. Okay? Now, I'll just put a hand up here. Now, I'm going to put an extreme example up first to kind of display the point I'm trying to make. But I'm going to get to a more normal hand shortly. But this is an extreme example to show sort of what I'm talking about with regards to trumping in both hands. So, this is a silly hand. Probably never going to exist ever. I mean, it probably has somewhere in the world at one stage, given the amount of bridge the world has played. But basically, this is an extremely shapely hand. So something I've slowly but surely been mentioning here, there and everywhere is that shape plays a big role in the number of tricks you can actually take. So the points guideline of 25 points per game, 30 odd points for a slam, less than that you don't want to be going for a game. It is exactly that, it's a guideline. So shape of your hand plays a big role, and I'm sure you'll have all realised playing in X, Y and Z different contracts, you have a certain number of points, but you surpass that because of your singleton. Or you have a certain number of points, but you don't make enough tricks because you simply lack the shape. Shape plays a big role in the number of points, in the number of tricks rather, that you can take. So if we take this extremely shapely hand, you will see how you can make a lot of tricks with very few points. Between the two hands we have 15 points, which isn't very many. They've got a lot more than us. In theory, according to the points that we have, the opponents can make game because they've got 25, right? Let's say somehow, when, I don't know, 1 heart, 1 spade, something, 4 spades, because you've bid level of the fit, you might end up playing in spades on this hand. Now this is an extreme example of the point I'm trying to make. However, if you look, we have a lot of shape. We have void in hearts with north, and we have a void in diamonds with south. Now that won't happen very often, But making tricks out of your trump suit, this is essentially a different way to make tricks in a trump contract. Making tricks out of your trump suit is possible when you have shortages in both hands. This is what's known as a cross ruff. A ruff is when you trump a card, and a cross ruff is when you ruff like that. So you ruff to one hand, then back to the other. A cross ruff is really good fun to play because the opponents are powerless. You lead a heart from here, they have to play hearts and you trump it. You lead a diamond from here, they have to play diamonds and you trump it. It's really good fun because they simply can't do anything. What that means is, if we were to draw the trumps, we would actually be reducing our total trick potential because we would be pulling 2 of our tricks in one trick every time. What I would like is to trump those 4 diamonds over here and these 5 hearts over here. So I would like to make 9 tricks from my trumps, plus my 3 aces. In theory, I can make 12 tricks. Now that would assume everything goes swimmingly, and also it assumes that the opponents don't lead trumps. If the opponents lead trumps, they are playing trumps for us, aren't they? So when I said drawing trumps is always the correct thing to do, that was not the truth, I'm afraid. Drawing trumps is often the correct thing to do, but not when you have good shape, which means it's worth the risk of leaving them with their trumps so that you can make your trumps individually. So the way I would expect this hand to go, I'm making the assumption the opponents don't lead trumps at trick 1, i.e. they're not psychic. They lead a diamond, let's say. I would, let's say it's from over here, throw the club away because we want to win our ace of diamonds. I'm not really concerned with what they're playing, to be honest. Play the ace of clubs. Now there's one thing, that was an instinctive play, I should have told you why I'm doing that before. Whenever you're about to go ruff, you should play your winners first. It's just good practice too. So when you're about to embark on a cross ruff, play your aces first, and then aces outside the trumps, and then embark on a cross ruff. So now the way the hand's going to go, given that we're with North, it's going to go a diamond, trumpet, a heart, trumpet, a diamond, trumpet, a heart, trumpet, so on and so forth. And in theory, you can make all of these cards winners by trumping in the appropriate hand. That's what's known as a cross ruff. If we had drawn the trumps instead, let's say we play ace of spades, king of spades, what would have happened, if we go back to this position, we play ace of spades and then the king of spades, we only have 3 trumps left to deal with our 5 heart losers. So essentially you're hurting yourself by playing the trump suit. Do you all see that? So it's an actually completely different style of playing. So when I first spoke about playing a trump contract, I said, draw the trumps, play on your next best suit. That is a perfectly legitimate way of playing a trump contract. I'm not changing that, that is still fine. The only time you might not do that is if you can ruff in one of your or both of your hands. This is an extreme example where drawing the trumps will be definitely bad and cross-ruffing is definitely good. This is kind of the other end of the scale, if you will. Drawing the trumps here, my question would be, what side suit are you playing on? If you're about to draw the trumps, your then next plan is to play on your next best side suit. The problem we have here is we don't have a side suit. And the reason we don't have a side suit is because we shouldn't be drawing the trumps and instead we should be ruff. Do you see the difference? So drawing the trumps, whenever you're about to fight, you think, I want to draw the trumps, you need to be thinking what suit you're playing next. Okay? Now, that extreme example aside, I just wanted to show you how you can actually make tricks out of trumps. And not just from playing trumps and then playing on your side suit. There needs to be a way to know whether to go down the drawing trumps route or whether to go down the not drawing trumps route. Now, not drawing trumps takes risks, but sometimes those risks are worthwhile. So I'll just put a hand up here and try and explain the point. Okay. So this is a slightly more normal hand. It's not entirely normal. I have constructed it to display a point, obviously, but it's slightly more normal. Just make sure we've got 13 cards in each hand. I keep doing that. Yeah, we do. Good. Now let's say we're in some spade contract. Let's say we bid optimistically for a spade game, which is slightly stretching given that we've only got 24 points between the 2 hands, but we do have singletons, so, you know, spade game is reasonable. So we're in 4 spades, and now our options are draw the trumps and play on our clubs, clubs being our next best side suit, or ruff hearts with north and ruff diamonds with south. You can see how essentially in every single trump contract you will play in, you will have a choice. Draw the trumps and play on whatevers, or don't draw the trumps and do some ruffing. You will almost always have that choice made for you, depending on whether you have shortage or not, in which case you can't do any ruffing if you don't have shortage, or whether you have a really good side suit, so you want to draw the trumps to play on the side suit. Now, there's an interesting point as to analyse how many tricks we are going to make from our trump suit. So if we assume spades are trumps, if we were to just play ace, king, queen, jack and all of our trumps out, how many tricks would we make in that spade suit? Making the assumption that the spades have to break. We would make 5, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
If we just, I appreciate that wouldn't be good play, to play the ace, the king, the queen, the jack, all the way down. But if we were to just play all of our spades out, we would make 5 spade tricks. Yeah? Just basically bang them all down, which would be bad play, I agree with you. If we can ruff a spade, if we can ruff with a spade, ruffing something else, we would in theory go from 5 tricks to 6 tricks, because we can still play all of our blah, 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 but we will have made an extra one on a separate trick. That's the theory behind not drawing the trumps. Now there's an interesting point here. If you ruff in one of those hands, it gets you to 6 tricks. If you ruff in another hand, it remains at 5. The reason for that is if you ruff where your length is, you are shortening your long trumps. So just to prove my point, if we get rid of this heart and then ruff a heart in the hand, now if we run our spades, how many spade tricks are we going to make? If we run all of our spades now.
I don't think I understand what you're saying.
So if we play the ace of hearts over here,
Yeah.
and then trump to heart with the north cards, we've just made one trick, haven't we, by trumping a heart. If we now run our spades out, how many spades are we going to make?
4.
4. So we've gone from 5 tricks that we originally had just a minute ago to 4 tricks, plus the one in hand we've just made, which goes back to 5. We've not achieved anything. The reason for that is you have trumped in your long holding. The way to make extra tricks from your trump suit is trumping in your short holding. Because what that does is that maintains your trump length so that you still make the same number of tricks in that trump suit. So if we trump in south, which is the short trump holding, now that's a strange phrase, short trump holding, essentially a hand with fewer trumps, whichever hand has fewer trumps, which is almost always dummy because normally you have more trumps than them given that you've been bidding them. So in this hand, trumping hearts, or trumping a heart, doesn't actually gain us tricks, because we're going to make 5 spade tricks, even if we just run all our spades down. Trumping a heart over here actually doesn't benefit us. Whereas if we were to trump a diamond, we play the ace of diamonds, we then trump a diamond, play a diamond and trump it. How many tricks are we going to make from spades if we run them now? Still 5, because we've maintained our length. Do you see the difference? There's a very critical difference, because one of them is good, one of them is not good. Trumping over here, in theory they look the same, don't they? Making a small trump on the small heart feels like a positive thing. That feels beneficial for your side. You've turned that 3 of hearts into a winner. However, what you haven't thought about there is how many tricks you would have made anyway in the spade suit. So trumping in the short trump holding is a benefit. Trumping in the long trump holding is not a benefit. So this is where it all comes down to as to whether you should be drawing the trumps or not. And the key is, if you can trump in the short trump holding, you should do so, because that gives you extra tricks. If you can trump in the long trump holding, you should not do so, because that doesn't give you extra tricks. You with me? Now I have given us excellent spades here to display the point that we can run 5 spade tricks. But the theory is the same. Even if all these 5 spades were small, and these 4 spades were small, we would make like 3 tricks if we ran them out. By trumping in the long holding, you are not gaining tricks. Trumping in the short holding, you are gaining tricks. But I have given us nice spades so that it displays the point more firmly, if you will. But you don't require good trumps. It follows through, whatever. So in this instance, playing the ace of diamonds and trumping a diamond, we have gone from 5 spade tricks to 6 spade tricks. Do you see that? Because we've made this little trump, and we are still going to make our 5 spade tricks because we have maintained our length. We've maintained the control in the suit. See the difference? So something you will hear me say a huge amount of the time, now that I've introduced you to it, is can you trump in the short holding? Can you trump in the short holding? What that means is, can you make it that you can make a trump from the short trump holding, the hand with fewer trumps? Can you navigate a way where there'll be a void on the dummy, normally the dummy, and then you trump a card over there, which gives you benefits, basically. You gain tricks that way. So here it was rather easy. Play your ace of diamonds, which gets rid of a diamond. Trump the diamond. You can do it like that. However, if I take the ace of diamonds away, it is still correct to aim to trump diamonds on the dummy. The problem you have with that is that you are going to lose at lead, aren't you? So you play a diamond, which loses, and the opponents now have the lead. That's life, that's going to happen some of the time. If they are super switched on, they might lead a trump to try and cut down your trumping. However, most opponents won't know very quickly that you're doing that. Experienced opponents may well smell your plan. But let's say they lead something that isn't a trump, just so that we have some chance. They lead a heart, let's say, which means you win your ace. You now want to go back to hand. Now notice, I'm trumping a heart to get to the north hand, not because I think trumping hearts is good, but because I want to trump these diamonds. So as ever, with every single hand, getting the lead in the right place is always critical. It always is something that's important to you. So then when we play this diamond, we are then trumping in the short holding, which was the entire aim of losing that diamond in the first place. No, losing a diamond is not something I want to do, but it's something I must do so that I don't lose more diamonds. If you draw the trumps on this hand, you will end up with a lot of little diamonds in hand with nowhere for them to go. You will simply have losing diamonds. Okay? So, when you see the dummy, you must decide whether you think drawing trumps is a good idea or not. And you must decide before you play any cards. If you think drawing the trumps is a good idea, but you decided not to, 6 tricks in, you've got a problem. Because you needed to think at trick 1. A mark of a good bridge player is someone who thinks at trick 1. Even if you have 13 tricks with your eyes closed, thinking at trick 1 is always a good idea. If thinking at trick 10, wishing you'd thought at trick 1 is not a good idea. Okay? And that is something that's very easily done. For example, if they led a diamond, and this is your dummy, I know you're going to play the singleton diamond. It's the only legal card you can play. However, at trick 1, you should still think about the nature of the hand. What am I doing? Am I drawing the trumps? If I am drawing the trumps, what suit am I playing next? Or, if I'm not drawing the trumps, what am I looking to trump? Think now, rather than in 3 tricks' time when you might have done something wrong. Okay? And the whole be-all and end-all of when to draw trumps is if you can ruff in the short trump holding. If you can ruff in the short trump holding, aim to do that ASAP. Yes?
But once you've done that, you then have to trump in the...
Potentially,
Back there.
potentially, depending on how many times you trump. It might be that you play a cross ruff hand where you ruff. In the first example I gave, trumping in the long trump holding was only to get the lead back so that we could do more trumping in the short holding, which is what we might have to do in this particular hand. Once you've done all the trumping you can in the short trump holding, then it is time to draw the trumps. Now, these examples are somewhat unusual in that you've got a lot of losers. You've got all these losers to trump over here. More often than not, you'll only have 1 card or sometimes 2 to trump in a short trump holding. So you do a little bit of a hybrid. You trump in the short trump holding, then when you've done that, then you draw the trumps off the opponents. Essentially, maximising the advantage of having the trump suit and then neutralising the disadvantage of having the trump suit. Okay? Because having a trump suit is a bit like a double-edged sword, really. Letting them have trumps is bad, but us having trumps and making tricks cheaply is good. So you have to kind of manifest it so that you make advantage of the good thing and try and neutralise the bad thing. Okay? Mm-hmm. Right, so I'm just going to put a few hands on here and I'm going to think about whether we're going to look to draw the trumps or not and why. Okay? We are in 4 hearts and North is playing it, let's say, something like 1 heart, 4 hearts, that looks rather sensible. And in fact, let me just change it ever so slightly, sorry. There was an argument for something there. It's probably going to change the bidding now. 1 spade, 2 clubs, 2 hearts. Anyway, we're in 4 hearts, don't worry about the bidding. And we need to decide at trick 1 whether we are drawing the trumps. Let's say East leads the king of clubs. So, yes, I'm playing the ace of clubs on the king of clubs. I think all of us are playing the ace of clubs on the king of clubs. I don't think that's an argument. However, we need to think about how we are playing this hand. Not just what we're doing on this trick, but what we're doing for the next 12 after this trick. Okay? I can't tell you how good of a... I understand I'm stressing this point. But I can't tell you how good of a habit it is to think about the hand now, rather than I'll play my ace and I'll do a few trumps and see what happens. It's bad practice, I promise you. So we're going to play our ace of clubs, but don't play your ace of clubs yet. Think about what we want to do. So the question is, do we want to draw the trumps? And the way you get to that answer is not just guess, but it's a case of, can we trump in the short trump holding? So, which one is the short trump holding? South. As I said, it's almost always dummy, but not always. So, can we do any trumping over there?
Clubs.
Can we trump clubs in South?
No.
No, that's the trap.
Yeah.
So we can trump clubs, but that's with the long trump holding. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So trumping clubs would not benefit us because that's trumping in the long holding. Can we trump anything in south? The answer is no, we can't. We could trump diamonds eventually,
Yes.
but we don't have 3. If we had 3 or 4 diamonds, we could then trump the 3rd and 4th diamond. But our ace-king will get rid of our diamonds, and then we have no diamonds to trump. That's why I changed it to move a diamond up. So what that means is we should draw the trumps. If you can't trump in the short trump holding, draw the trumps. Simple as that. It would be a bad play to trump clubs in your hand. It would feel like a positive thing. The ace of clubs, trump a club. Haha, you didn't make your queen of clubs. But you're going to make these trumps based on length anyway. So don't do it. Draw the trumps. Hopefully they break 3-1 or 2-2, so that means that we don't lose any trumps. It would be upsetting if one opponent had all 4 missing trumps. And then what suit are we going to play next? What's our next best suit? Spades. So you want to draw the trumps so you can go spade, 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 spade. Okay? This is what I would like to call a vanilla hand. There's nothing particularly exciting going on. We're just going to knock the trumps out so then we can play all our winning spades. We don't actually have that much work to do, to be honest with you. Just got to knock their trumps out and go down all the spades. We can actually make 13 tricks if everything breaks nicely, if the spades are 4-1 or better and the hearts are 3-1 or better, because we'll make 5 tricks here, 5 tricks here, 2 tricks there and 1 trick there. In theory, as long as we draw the trumps. Do you see? If you played ace of clubs, trumped a club, went back to hand, trumped another club, not only are you risking them over-trumping you, you're also not getting anywhere. You're simply not gaining tricks by trumping the long holding. So it is as simple as, can I trump in the short holding? No, I must draw the trumps. Straightforward as that. Okay? So in this instance, I would knock the trumps out, then play my next best suit, which is spades. If I decrease the quality of the spades, the plan is still the same. Draw the trumps, knock their ace of spades out, and play on my next best suit, which is spades. I'm hoping to set tricks up in spades by dislodging their ace and then winning it based on length. Okay? And you know, even still, same plan. The thing is, I'm making our hands worse, but I'm not changing the shape. It's the shape that is relevant as to how you play this hand, not necessarily the strength. Now we're going to make somewhere in the 10-11 trick region, depending on how well the spades behave and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Now, if I change this hand ever so slightly, what I've done now is I've made it that we, first of all, don't have as nice a spade fit. In fact, our spade fit has vanished. And second of all, I've made it that we can now ruff in the short holding. We can trump spades in the dummy, can't we? So, although I've tweaked this hand, you could argue marginally, the entire nature of the hand has changed by changing South's shape. Because now, the answer to can I ruff in the short holding is yes. So that means we do not want to draw the trumps. Do you see the difference? If we draw the trumps now, our next best side suit is what? Spades, probably? But it would take an awful lot of play. I mean, maybe diamonds? Maybe diamonds, but we're not really going to build any tricks there. You can see by how drawing trumps, we're essentially going to make however many tricks we already have. We're not going to build anything. So we need to make tricks out of our trump suit. And the clue that that was the correct way to play the hand is the fact we can ruff in the short holding. Do you see? So the correct play on this hand would be not to draw the trumps because we can ruff in the short holding. Notice I've done all this thought and I still haven't played the ace of clubs. Now, I'm not expecting you to have 20 minutes of writing things down and sat there going, you obviously have to do it within reasonable time, but you need to think now rather than later is what I'm trying to say, but try not to spend half an hour before you play a card because people will get bored. So in this hand, the reason drawing the trumps is the wrong thing to do is because we have a shortage with the short trump holding. So we need to exploit that shortage by ruffing spades as many times as we can with our south trumps. Okay? So the correct way to play this hand will be win the ace of clubs and immediately play that spade off the dummy. Yes, the opponents are going to win that spade. There is no way you can avoid that. However, what you've now done is created that void that you are going to look to exploit by trumping the spades with south. A good opponent will switch on to what you are doing and start playing trumps for you. Just as a little tangent, if the declarer is not drawing trumps, you must ask yourself why. Because they are probably doing some of this stuff, which means you need to try to play trumps. Essentially, if you do the bang opposite of whatever declarer is doing, you're more often than not going to do things that harm them. Because you would imagine they're doing things that benefit them, more often than not. So therefore, that trust the declarer knows what they're doing somewhat. So therefore, when the declarer plays the ace of clubs and plays a spade off dummy, as a defender, I will be thinking, I know what you're doing here. You're trying to trump your spade losers in the dummy, and therefore I might well play a trump. Now, let's say the defenders aren't mean, or they don't switch on to that idea so much. It might be that we can play all 4 of our spades and trump them with all 4 of dummy's trumps, if allowed. Now, obviously, that relies the defence to help us somewhat, and it also means we've got to get our lead over here a lot of times. But the theory of the hand, because of the shape change here, the whole hand has completely changed, simply because we now don't have a nice side suit, and we have shortage with the short trump holding. Do you see? So what I would do, let's say they lead a diamond, which is rather friendly. I would win the king of diamonds, so that the lead's over here. Play a spade, trump it. Need to get the lead back to north. Probably trump a club, but I'm not particularly keen on doing that. So I can trump another spade. You get the idea. Get it there as many times as I can. Simply to trump all, if possible, all of these spades on the dummy. And you can see we're starting getting to a position where we're actually making close to 9 tricks from our 9 trumps. Close to. Okay? So when you're about to embark on playing in a trump contract, before you play a card, if possible, I appreciate that requires some thought at the start, try to decide, do I want to draw the trumps? Do I not want to draw the trumps? And the idea behind that question, the answer, if you like, lies in whether you can rough in the short holding or not. If you can rough in the short holding, look to do it pronto. The first thing you must do. If you can't rough in the short holding, look to draw the trumps. It does not change if your trumps are naff or not. One thing I have noticed is people don't like drawing trumps when they're missing the ace and king. Just because you're missing big trump doesn't mean drawing the trumps is the wrong thing, nor does it mean drawing the trumps is the right thing. It's not about the quality, it's about the shape of the hands. If you like, the shape doesn't pay any respect to the big cards, whereas we instinctively as humans like aces and kings in trumps and don't like missing aces and kings. I get that, but if we did take the ace king of trumps away, this hand does not change. Okay, yes, we are now going to struggle greatly to make our contract of 4 hearts because we've bid like lunatics, but it doesn't change the way you play it. The correct way to play it is to rough spades of the dummy, so that's the way we should play it. And yes, we're probably going to go off now. Okay? Mm-hmm. Yes?
But doesn't this also, the fact that you've got a good shape on your side, does that not mean that there's a good chance that the distribution on the other side is going to be...
It's a fair comment. If we have a lot of shape, it's quite likely that they also have a lot of shape, but only when you have an extreme fit. So here we have a lot of shape, but actually if you add all the hands together, it's fairly evenly distributed. Mm-hmm. Even that we've got 6 of these, 9 of these, 6 of those, 5 of those. It's not massively, wildly out. But it's a fair comment. If you are extremely distributional, so are the opponents. But only when you have an extreme shortage in one suit and extreme length in the other, because then they tend to be the same. If you add all the hands up together, we are fairly balanced-ish. That's because we happen to have shortage in one hand and the other, which compensates for the other one's length. But it's a fair comment. If you do this kind of route of not drawing the trumps, there are risks attached. Because you trump something, they over-trump it, and you go, that's a problem. They not only have stopped you from making this trump, they've made a trump themselves, and they have the lead. So there is often a point when you choose not to draw the trumps, where you make lots of tricks, and then suddenly, bam, the roof falls in, and it's all over. But if that's the correct play, that's the correct play. Just like in this hand, we're going to trump as many spades as we can get away with. As soon as they over-trump us in spades, we're basically doomed for the rest of the hand. Okay? I appreciate that's a bit of a negative note to finish on. All right.